proudly sponsored by Premier Guns.
How you doing, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. You can win a Beretta SL3 for just £100. The GWCT gun drawer is now open. You can get a 12 or a 20 gauge SL3 for £100. You got to enter by debit card, but wow, what an absolutely excellent gun drawer. Funnily enough, talking about Beretta, I've got Mr. Cross here, who should hopefully be on his way. And I've got a couple of little questions about Beretta and indeed the Beretta trip. So here he is. Come on in, Mr. C.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
You've been to Italy twice, haven't you, recently?
Been to Beretta in Italy twice, yes.
Yeah. So it's obviously quite popular, which is good. But I have a question for you.
Let's hear it.
I just wonder why the lower gauges aren't more popular to have a custom stock.
Well, I don't think the lower gauges or more regular 12 gauge is in the conversation when people want a custom handmade gun fit. We do all of them. So to say, oh, they're not as popular isn't really... It's not an issue. It's like...
but you're right, they're not in the conversation. So, to my mind...
Well, I don't mean that they're being ignored when I say they're not in the conversation.
Oh, I think they are.
Well, I'm correcting that misconception right now.
Okay. How many 28 gauges have you done on the Beretta factory fit trip?
Well, you've got to look at the 28 gauge sales of Beretta.
How many have
shotguns.
you done?
I think we've done one. We did a 410.
Okay.
We've done a 410.
So you've done a 410, and approximately how many 12 gauges have you done?
They're almost entirely 12 gauge.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So if you're a gentleman shooter and you want to shoot a 28 gauge or a 410, do you think that you're more likely to encounter a problem with gun fit in a lower gauge?
Are you talking about the gentleman or lady who buys it off the shelf?
Yeah. Say you want a gun that's going to fit you. You want it to be usable. Do you think you're going to encounter more fitting problems with a 28 gauge?
That's a deep question.
You see, I think these are the people that should be going on the Beretta trip.
I think you've got a point. Are you suggesting that someone might have more fitting challenges to overcome with a smaller gauge?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, in that case, going on the handmade stock Beretta trip is an irreversibly wonderful way of solving it.
Yeah, and of course because you can't have an adjustable. Well, you could have an adjustable comb. Nobody really does, do they?
Well, adjustable combs are really popular for good reason,
but not on the smaller gauge guns.
What I would say is that the Beretta VIP trip, and thank you for talking to me about it, is the solution for any fitting problems, whether it's 12 or 410 or 28.
Okay.
Because you're making the blinking thing
for
that person. What happens is the person becomes the guiding...
The mould.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I hope this is going to be a yes to this question. If you need a massive plank of wood, which I would, because look at that neck, and this is before you even get to the cheek, it'd be like carrying a dining room door around. Do they just hollow it out so that I'm not left with a really heavy, unbalanced gun? How do you...
Let's assume that the person doesn't want a solid, heavy stock. Yes.
Okay, that's
But
good.
Some people might say, you know what, I like that bit of weight because it helps me in other ways.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So just one final thing then, whilst I've got you on this conversation. You're a big Beretta man, they're based in Italy, all the rest of it. Do you have any idea at all why they don't do a 16 gauge?
To be fair to Beretta, they didn't really whoosh in with them. I would say that the modern Beretta over and under shotgun, they do the 486, which is a side by side. Came in
the parallelogram
in the 19. I'm going to say 80s, 90s. So when they did the 686, I've got a feeling that the 686 came in 1986, and they did the 686 and 687 and 682.
But did they? Why didn't they do a 16 gauge?
Because
Obviously
I think by then,
sporting
because I
guns,
think
so.
it was driven. But you see, what had happened was, is if you go back 100 years, 80 years, especially in Europe, 16 bore there were more 16 bores being sold than many other gauges. By the time you get to 1986, 16 bore, you could barely buy their blinking cartridges in some shops. So they obviously did their market research and didn't include it in their range of calibers.
Okay.
As we've just said, they do include 410. Now, moving on, America isn't super big on 16 bore. Now, by the time you're getting into over 100 shotguns, you're hitting in a very American mindset, because Browning and Winchester, are very over and undery. So again, they would have looked at the American market and thought, that's what's going to be popular with the customers.
No, that's fair enough. If they want to omit an entire gauge from their range, then that's absolutely fine.
The other thing is, and this is probably the real reason.
Yes.
Is that each time you do a different gauge, if you do the design as a complete
action and
project, the whole blooming thing has to be rethought. Now,
or scaled down,
or that. So it may be that they said we're going to choose shotgun calibers to manufacture, and maybe it's better to get the job perfectly executed for a handful of gauges, let's say 410, 28, 20 and 12, than it is to try and do everything.
Okay. No, that's fair enough.
What is it? Or am I just making that up?
No. Well, it's an answer, isn't it? I'm not saying it's the right one, but it is an answer. So finally then, another thing that I've thought about with this custom fit trip, the VIP experience, if you've got a Beretta side-by-side, let's say a 471 Silverhawk or one of the traditional Parallelos, could you take it just to have a new stock fitted? You just want the stock. So you've already got the Beretta.
So this,
maybe you inherited it from your father. Can you just go over there and just have a stock custom fit without buying a whole brand new gun?
Well, what I may not have said to you, Alex, is that we are considering doing a side-by-side only Beretta trip.
Okay.
Because they've crept up in popularity. But
this is a yes or no question. Can I...
Most people...
So anybody who's got any old Berettas lying around that don't fit them, but they've got a heritage or inheritance, personal emotional value, you can make that gun fit for them? Yes. Excellent.
They don't need to replace the gun.
Excellent.
You can have an old scratch gun that's loved and shoots brilliantly or whatever, or it's just got a value as a memory.
Yeah.
And you can have it shoot
brilliant,
perfectly and fitting wonderfully.
That's good. That is good.
A lot of people who consider the VIP trip rule it out because they say, I don't need a new gun, I just need the stock doing. But we are now realising that we haven't made it clear, or maybe we haven't been said, but we had an increasing number of people saying, can I have my existing
Tell you what
gun?
else isn't clear about the VIP experience? The price. How much is it? Because
well,
how much is that?
Obviously, if you're...
Is it £3,000?
Hang on a minute. If you're
5, 8, 10, how much is it?
We normally charge... You see, we do have people... This is interesting. We do have people who just go on the trip. They don't want a gun fit. They just want to nose round Beretta and spend time with their friends and eat Italian food and stay in a lovely hotel and get treated like...
All right,
whatever.
How much is that?
And we charge about $8.50 for that.
$8.50?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's worth every single tenner because it's an absolutely... We've never had anybody, yet, who said, oh, that was a bit steep, or I don't know why I've charged that. Because when they see the opportunity and the amazing experience, it's like, that was the best 3 days I've spent this year.
Excellent. Right, I've got a clip of you at the British Shooting Show walking around talking about exactly what happens on the trip, and if you stay tuned, there's going to be a video that was taken actually at the Beretta factory, so you'll get to see what all that's about. We don't know why Beretta don't do 16 gauges. We do know that you can win an SL3 for £100 on the GWCT thing. I'll put a link in the description for you. We do know that if you've got a Beretta that doesn't fit you properly, you can have the stock changed and the fore end to match. And we do know that you can just use it as a little bit of a holiday anyway. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yes. The price that I've shared with you it's basically airport to airport. So you convey yourself or get conveyed or drive to the airport. You're greeted at the airport of choice. That can change. Often it's at the moment Stansted Airport. Whichever airport we book it through, from that moment everything is taken care of. Or breakfast is free. Right. So drinks are free.
When you said airport to airport, I thought you meant like Stansted to Italy.
Well, I think
you mean all the way there and all the way back.
From Genesis to Revelation. As soon as you're through the door, that's it. Your life is cushioned for the whole experience
until you're delivered back at Stansted. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. I hope that was clear.
Yeah.
Proudly sponsored by Premier Guns.